Hey folks, salam alaikum. So this video is basically me responding to someone named Julie Danae Richards, aka Mama Jules, who has been exchanging some nasty comments and accusations about me, and apparently it's continuing, so that's why I'm finally going to address it, because it's my right to defend myself against this ridiculousness. For some context, she runs Mothers Against Meth Alliance, and she is an indigenous person who's fairly well known throughout the U.S. and Canada, or so-called U.S. and so-called Canada. And I met her, it was about, it was February of 2020, so 2 years and 9 months ago, so it's been a while. And the total number of interactions that I ever had with her in person was a grand total of 2. The first day was for about 20 seconds after an event in Ajo, in which I just briefly introduced myself when the event was over. It was just like a quick, hi, thanks for your presentation, and bye type of thing. And then the next day, there was a little bit of a longer interaction where me and a bunch of others, mostly indigenous people, were staying on somebody's property in the town of Y. There's like a house there, some trailers, and places people can camp, just to give some context there. And then I ran into her there the next day, and there was a brief interaction that couldn't have lasted more than a few minutes. So what follows is, and actually I haven't even heard from her at all since then, since February of 2020, until just about a month ago, when she unleashed a whole bunch of accusations against me, infused with transphobia and snitchjacketing. And then I was going to respond to it then, but it's like I just kind of let it go, and then it started up again just a couple of days ago. So it's like at this point, I'm going to provide my defense to this, and people can take what they want and leave what they want. So I'm going to just go down this whole exchange, which was about a month ago on the Facebook page of Nellie Jo David. Julie Danae Richards says, "Fuck this sketch person," meaning me. "They told us that they can carry guns because they was a cis white male and could get away with it." And she was referring to this brief conversation that I had with her in February of 2020. And I don't remember any such conversation. And this starts out where she's saying that I identified basically as a cis white male, and I've never identified as a cis white male. A lot of you probably recall just a few days ago, November 14th to be specific, is my 12-year anniversary of me going full-time as a transgender woman. And in those 12 years, I've consistently identified as she and her pronouns. That's been consistent throughout the 12 years. So this whole thing starts out very strange. It's just like, and I don't know what carrying guns has to do with being like the whole thing. Like I said, I was a cis white male, and that's why I can carry guns. Well, no, women are allowed to carry guns. Trans people are allowed to carry guns. Non-white people can carry guns as well. Obviously, anybody should know that when it comes to policing and much of the gun culture in so-called America, there's obviously biases. It's that the culture and the laws and the enforcement tend to gear in the favor of cishet white men, and against particularly people of color, trans and queer people, Muslims, and also women. But anyway, that statement really just doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, I responded. I said, "Julie Danae Richards, that was never said, and I am not a cis white male." And then I responded further. I said, "Further, guns are legal in so-called Arizona, and I know plenty of indigenous people, including Otham, who carry. Doesn't mean there isn't obvious racism from the cops, though." By the way, Julie Danae Richards is from the Pine Ridge Reservation. So she's not from Arizona, so I wouldn't expect her necessarily to know the laws in Arizona. But anyway, that's just another point. So she responds and says, Samaya Dawood, yes, you did. To say that to us, there was 4 of us there. And I'm just going to assert here that no, I've never identified as a cisgender male. I've never identified that way in these 12 years, not once, not even as a joke, because it's just not a funny joke. And so I don't know why she would say that, because I never identify. Why would I just walk up to a group of people and say, I'm a cis-het male, or I'm a cis-white male? That doesn't even make sense. And then she responds and she says, and that's why I questioned you about your clothing. You're a dangerous, unsafe person, and that's why I never accepted your friend request. So she's saying I'm dangerous, unsafe. She doesn't even know me. Again, she knew me about 20 seconds one day, about 5 minutes at the most the next day, and that was the only in-person interactions. And there's basically been no interactions online either until just about a month ago. So it's very strange. And then she brings up my clothing. Well, my clothing is Islamic clothing. And why is it her business, or even, how is it even her role or her business to even question me about my clothing? Like, that's not her place to question. I've also been a Muslim for nearly a decade now. Like, it's not for her to question. So that comes across to me as Islamophobic. As to her, whatever the whole, I mean, okay, I don't care that she didn't accept my friend request. Probably, was better not to, because I don't want to be friends with somebody that acts that way, right? Okay, so moving along, then she says, make sure I have this in the right order. Oh yeah, and then she responds and says, Samaya Dawood, you're the one that said that. And again, I'm telling you all here, no, I didn't. So my response to her in this discussion was, a dangerous, unsafe person who you never even took the time to meet? Whatever. I transitioned 11, nearly 12 years ago and have always gone by she, her pronouns. As to guns, I bought my first gun 15 years ago before I transitioned. And the point is what? And I have to ask that here, what is the point? What this comes across as to me is she's trying to paint this picture of me being dangerous, right? Oh my gosh, we don't know what gender you are, and you're giving us confusing statements about your gender, and you have guns. Oh my God, guns. Guns and a questionable gender. This is, and something about your clothing, this is straight up transphobia and Islamophobia. And the whole guns thing is to make me out to be dangerous. That's the way it comes across to me. Lots of people have guns, so I don't know what the issue is. So then I respond further and I say, I never ever once called myself a cis white male, so that is ridiculous. Then she responds and she says, so you're calling 4 indigenous women liars. You must not remember, but we do. That's why we don't mess with you. You give off Fed vibes. So now, she's saying I'm calling 4 indigenous women liars, which is pretty ridiculous. And then I'm giving off Fed vibes. So what she's doing now is a straight up snitch jacket. Telling somebody they're giving off Fed vibes is making an insinuation that they're a federal agent or a federal informant. And anybody that's engaged in direct action, any kind of radical movements, should know better that you don't go around snitch jacketing people, cop jacketing, Fed jacketing, etc. You just don't do that. And this whole thing about, oh, well, you give off vibes, it's a stupid statement. It's making an implication. Again, it's like she's not outright calling me a federal agent or informant, but it's implied. Anyway, as to the whole me being a liar accusation, she's kind of mixing a bit of identity politics in this too. Like, you're, like, basically, because I'm not indigenous, right? So I'm calling 4 indigenous women liars. I'm not calling anybody a liar, but it's one of two things. Because I'm telling you all now that for 12 years, I've never once identified as a cis male. Anybody who's insisting that I did say that, it means one of two things. Either they misunderstood or misheard whatever it was that I was saying at the time, or yes, they are lying. It has to be one of the two. So either all four of them, for some strange reason I don't know, were making deliberate lies up, or all four of them must have misheard whatever it was that I was saying, or misunderstood it, or some of them are lying and some of them just misunderstood. I don't know. Nor do I care. I mean, it's kind of strange. If any of them were deliberately lying, I don't see, like, what's the point? It's very transphobic to be stirring up this stuff. And anyway, none of this was brought up to me at the time. So at the time of the interaction in Y, Arizona, in this 5 minutes that I was around her and a handful of others, and I think there was more than 4 people there anyway, none of this was brought up. So if there were all these issues that her and other people she claims had at that moment, why was none of it brought up at the time? Nobody, if they all thought, if she and everybody else thought I was saying stuff that didn't make sense and all this stuff, why wouldn't they confront me about it? I mean, if you're radical organizers in a movement and somebody's coming across as being sketchy or weird or whatever, then you're supposed to, like common sense is to bring attention to it right then and there, to figure out what's going on, to address it. You don't just, like, it was weird, like this doesn't make any sense. And why is it just now being brought up 2 years? Well, when this was this what I'm reading now is a month ago, so it was 2 years 8 months ago from the time of this conversation. Why would you wait nearly 3 years later to bring it up and not bring it up at the time? That makes no sense at all. And as to me giving off Fed vibes, there's nothing to counter with that because she's not saying anything intelligent. Like, I'm not a fucking Fed or a cop or an informant. And anybody, again, in movement spaces and organizing knows you don't go around accusing people of that without clear proof. If you have suspicions about somebody based on some evidence of suspicious behavior, like there's an activist that's acting shady in some way, shape, or form, then you can address the particular behaviors that they're engaging in that's disturbing you. Even if those behaviors are not enough to make clear evidence that they're an undercover or something like that, you can still address whatever the suspicious things are that are making you concerned. That's not what's happening here. It's just a bullshit accusation, which somebody like her, who has a position of power and influence, should know better. Hold on. Then Nellie Jo David, who is Autumn and who is residing in Tucson, jumps in and says, Samaya Dawood, Mama Jules tells the truth. Caught me off guard because I do respect your pronouns. I suppose you were just nervous because we caught you eavesdropping on us. Well, what she's saying is not the truth. Like, so is Nellie arguing that Mama Jules is this absolute perfect person that can never err, can never mistake anything, can never tell a lie, can never get the wrong information? Like, that's bullshit. Okay, maybe she tells the truth most of the time, but this is not the truth. It's a ridiculous statement. And yes, Nellie Jo David has always respected my pronouns to my knowledge. But then now there's a new accusation here that I was eavesdropping on them. Well, that was never brought up 2 years and 9 months ago, or 2 years and 8 months ago from this time. Weird. So Julie Danae Richards responds, yes, you did. And you said that's why the cops won't fuck with you. Myself, my daughter, Renee, and Carol was all there. I don't remember who Carol was. I know who Renee is. She's had ongoing problems with me for years. And she's actually snitch-jacketed me in the past as well, accusing me of being FBI. Nellie Jo David has also accused me of being FBI in the past as well, all with not a shred of evidence. And I don't know who her daughter was. I don't remember that stuff from nearly 3 years ago. But again, it's just this argument that claiming that I said something and I'm telling you all, no, I didn't say that. Why would I say that I was a cis male when I'm not? Why would I say that? Even on my profile of my social media pages, I make it very clear. It's on the profile of Facebook, Instagram, like everything. She, her pronouns, transgender. It's very clear. And it's been up there that way for years. So I'm not going to say that. It doesn't make any sense. And then to say that I said that's why the cops won't fuck with you. Well, first of all, she has no knowledge whatsoever about anything going on pertaining to me in Phoenix, because over and over and over and over again, over the last number of years, I've been arrested at protests and charged with crimes. I've been surveilled by the police. I've had the FBI at my door. I've been followed around by cops. I've found out cops and feds or whatever have asked other people about me, and it's gotten back to me like I've been consistently targeted by a range of agencies, in more ways than one. So for her to make that accusation that I was saying, well, that the cops won't fuck with me because I'm saying that I'm a cis male or a cis white male, that's ridiculous. And then I respond, I say, Julie Dene Richards, oh, and now I'm accused of eavesdropping. What a joke. And now the cops won't fuck with me? Then why did they hold me for 4 days on 2 separate cases involving 4 misdemeanors and 6 felonies in 2020? I guess that was all made up too. And that's pertaining to the curfew arrest during the George Floyd uprising, where I was held for 3 days and charged with 2 misdemeanors. They were both dropped. And that refers to the October 17th action. It was a street protest. It was a street march. October 17th of 2020, in which me and a total of 15 of us, there were 18 of us arrested, 15 of us got charged with an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. It was a conspiracy charge, the street gang charge, assisting a criminal street gang, felony rioting, and then there were a couple of misdemeanors in there. But it was charged twice. Like, first we got a bunch of charges, then they got thrown out, and then they got refiled again with a grand jury indictment. So, like, I don't know what she's talking about, but she has no historical context of anything that has been going on pertaining to me at all, because she doesn't live here. So, yeah, moving along. Windy here. Okay. Sorry, folks, I have a bit of a cold. So I responded again. I further said, I really don't care at all who was there like nearly 3 years ago. And it, like, again, why is this being brought up? This was February of 2020, and it gets brought up in October of 2022, and we're now in November of 2022. Why? If there was such an issue in a few minutes of an interaction, why wouldn't it be addressed at that time? Of course, this was all brought up in the larger context of Nellie going off on me about all the issues she and a few others, had with me and the border wall resistance, which was 2.5 to 3 years ago also. And she's also been attacking several people I know who are Otham. So it's not just me. There's other people getting attacked by her. And I'm not even going to get into all that now. I'm just addressing Julie Dene Richards because of the transphobia and the Snitchjacketing. So I respond further and I said, windy. Okay, I said, I'm glad I don't work with y'all. Extremely paranoid people who hear things not said are not safe people for me to be around. Yeah, I'm going to add to that, especially people that would hold on to stuff they believe was said or done for 2 years and 8 or 9 months and then bring it up. That's weird. Nellie Jo David jumps in and says, yeah, Samaya, just like you to complain about your safety while actively compromising a movement you were asked to leave. And that gets into all her other issues about me, which I'm not even going to get into here. And then I respond, I said, Julie Dene Richards, actually the people accusing others of Fed vibes or actually being Feds, parentheses, which Nellie has accused me of, end parentheses, are the ones to be suspicious of. But as usual, none of you ever took the time to even try to know me, so you don't know anything, and I really don't care. So just to mention some historical context about snitchjacketing and how dangerous it can be. For those of you who don't know anything about Annie Mae Aquash, she was an indigenous person that got involved in the American Indian movement back in, I believe, the early 70s. And she came from so-called Canada into the U.S., and I believe this was during the Wounded Knee uprising. Anyway, she was super involved and so forth, and was doing all kinds of work and all that. And some of these men that were closely around her in the movement got suspicious of her and started accusing her of being an FBI agent. And anyway, the accusations led to her murder. She was driven out to a roadside, shot in the head execution style, and thrown over a cliff. So, you know, while these kinds of accusations don't usually lead to results that extreme, it's very, very problematic and can be very dangerous, especially in radical movements and spaces, to be going around accusing people of being feds and cops when they're not. She was not a fed. She was not an agent or an informant. And I believe 20 or 30 years later, I think it was just a few years or so ago, there was one or two people that finally got arrested and convicted over her murder. But anyway, that's just some historical context. Anyway, I then said, Nellie Joe David, I never complained about my safety in any of your movement spaces. Then Julie Dene Richards says, Samaya Dawood, I don't have time to argue with liars. That's all you all do to try to cover up your bullshit. I don't know who all you all is, because this is only about me. I don't know who else is involved that's being accused of being a liar, so that's weird. She further responds and says, you was hiding behind the bushes listening to us call you sketchy. No, I wasn't. I mean, you know how ridiculous this is? Now, if I was... Okay, so let's say... Okay, so these are radical organizers, right? And they're all... I know where they were at. They were all on this patio area, and there was kind of this wall around part of the patio. And it was the next mornings, and I had gotten out of my tent. The rain had stopped, and I was walking up towards the house, and I was looking for somebody, and I heard some voices, right? And so I walk up to see, you know, who's there, and if the person I'm looking for is there, and that's all there was to it. That's not eavesdropping. And to say I'm hiding behind bushes, I mean, like, what? I'd have to go back to the property to see where there's any bushes. I don't even know if there are any bushes. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, and another thing is, if I was really doing that, if I was really, like, let's say I was really doing that. Let's say I was hiding behind bushes, listening to them have their, you know, let's say they were having an organizing meeting, and I'm like, they see me hiding behind bushes trying to listen in. If you're a group of radical organizers, at least this is me, I can't speak for others, but if it was me, I'm a confrontational person when it comes to security culture. I would bring it up right away. Yo, what the hell are you doing? Why are you hiding back there listening to us? What are you doing? You know, I would make a confrontation. And then I would further ask the person's background. Like, how did you get involved in this movement? Or how did you get in this space? What's your history of organizing or quote-unquote activism? Like, where are you from? Like, who are you associated with? Like, who can say, who vouches for you? Like, when it comes to basic security, if you don't really know somebody and you think they're acting sketchy, like, confront them and ask them about their background. Like, you can ask necessary questions without being an asshole. None of that was done. On the contrary, they actually, I don't know if they particularly invited me into that little space. I was allowed to stay overnight there anyway. It wasn't their property anyway. But like I said, I was spent about 5 minutes on that patio, and there was no apparent issue presented at the time at all. Nobody brought any issues up. So if I was that suspicious and that sketchy, why would you wait 2 years and 8 months later to bring it up? That makes absolutely no sense. Then she further goes on. She says, "You're a cisco white male. Remember, so go on now. Indigenous folks have spoken. Bye." So she's obviously acting like all indigenous people on Turtle Island somehow agree with her, which is, again, that's a form of identity politics. It's ridiculous. And she's trying to say I'm a cis white male, but she spells it cisco, and she spells male M-A-I-L, either because she can't spell or because she's trying to circumvent Facebook's community standards, because, you know, she is engaging in blatant transphobia here, and so by meddling with the words, maybe she thinks they won't take down her message or something. I don't know, it's weird. But I've already repeatedly told her I go by she and her pronouns. I'm not a cis male, and she's still doubling down, saying that I am, which is, again, straight up transphobia on her part. I respond and I say, "Julie Dene Richards, and you are transphobic. A couple of you need help, particularly when it comes to paranoia." And that has to do with the whole thing about me allegedly hiding behind bushes. Okay. Anyway, she responds and she doubles down further. And she says, laughing my ass off, abbreviated, she says, "Bro, your white boy privilege that you talked about didn't work." So she calls me bro, misgendering, says that I have white boy privilege, again, misgendering again, absolutely obnoxious, and straight up transphobia. The only context that I could have been talking about white boy privilege could have been talking about my past before I transitioned, right? Because before I started presenting as a woman, I had male privilege, right? You know, when I presented as a male in society, I would have had male privilege. But, like, I don't even remember talking about that stuff. But just blatantly transphobic. She doesn't care. Despite the fact that she runs an organization that's supposed to help meth users, meth addicts, people struggling with meth, to help overcome their addictions and stuff, despite that she runs this organization that's supposed to help people, she's spewing blatant transphobia, which is absolutely unacceptable in any context. But it also makes me wonder, is this how she treats people coming to her for help? I don't know, it's pretty sad. Anyway, after this whole conversation, I ended up blocking Nellie because she posted about 200 messages or like comments on a number of my posts on my page that had nothing to do with the topic, just so that she could basically attack me. Did not want resolution for anything, just wanted to keep attacking me, so I blocked her, right? And recently I've blocked Julie Dene Richards as well, because she decided, I've had it. She's going on again. So somebody recently, a couple of days ago, brought this to my attention, because I have, people, even though I block someone, if somebody's shit-talking about me, somebody's going to let me know, right? So a couple of days ago, on Nellie's page, Julie started in again, and she said, having to do with me, Julie said, "This person," meaning me, "is very dangerous and a settler on your territory. Kick them out." Now, I don't know if she means the reservation or if she means just the general area like Ajo, Y, Tucson, Phoenix, right? It's all Otham land. Or if she specifically means the reservation. But regardless, I do go to the reservation, and I go there with permission of Otham, so it's not her business. And it's not Nellie's business either. Like, if I'm hanging out with a group of people that invite me to hang out with them or do whatever with them, and there's consent, and none of it involves Nellie, it's not her business, and it's definitely not Julie's business. Nellie responds, and she says, "Julie Dene Richards, we sure tried," meaning to kick me out. Yeah, for historical context, she and a few others asked me to leave Ajo, which is not the reservation. I did leave Ajo. Ajo is Hyachinotham land. I did actually leave Ajo. But this year in 2022, I have come down to Ajo numerous times. But just for some context, Nellie doesn't live in Ajo. She didn't live in Ajo at the time she was asking me to leave Ajo, and she's still trying to police whether I can come to Ajo or not when she's not even there. And yes, and her request is denied. Ajo, even though it's not the reservation, I have permission from Otham there, not just one or two, but everybody I associate with there has no problem with me being there. I'm unaware of any issues anybody living in Ajo has with me being there. I'm sure at some point, if I was causing trouble, somebody there who's Otham would either bring it to my attention or bring it to other people's attention, and it would then be brought to my attention. That's not happened. Julie responds, Nellie Joe David, I think they are so nervy and dangerous to cause so much division and trouble. Definite infiltrator vibes. So that's the end of this. She's going on again about infiltrator vibes, me being dangerous, all this kind of stuff. It's all just more bad jacketing, snitch jacketing, all this kind of stuff. It's unacceptable. And so that's why I'm making my response to this, because it's disappointing that somebody like her, who seems to have, influence and seems to be doing good things in the community. I mean, helping people get off of meth is a good thing. Is so interested and so involved in these ridiculous accusations and call-outs against me. 2 years and 8 months to 9 months later. I mean, this recent set of accusations that I just read is 2 years and 9 months ago. Again, that's the last time I saw her. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there so that everybody would hear my side of the story. I hope you all are well. Salam alaikum.